Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. Thank you so much for coming back. Today I want to talk a little bit about COVID. Now, this may feel like it's a little bit off topic from where we have been, but really it isn't, because we're still talking about character pathology and we're still talking about trauma. But I want to take just a little bit of a different turn in today's video, just to highlight some of the things that we've been going through. And I know on Thursday of last week, or this past week, there's been a lot of conversation about the most recent massacre that occurred. And, there's a lot of people, including my clients, who are coming in or talking to me or just expressing their feelings on television, on radio, on podcasts, saying that, it feels like our world has gone crazy, and it feels like our world has gone crazy right after we open the doors and loosen the restrictions that have been associated with COVID. It's like, now we've let out a hornet's nest of bees, and it's just hard to understand. It's even more hard to understand why massacres are occurring at such a high rate, it feels like, now that COVID is over. You would think people would be rushing out of their homes in harmony, right? Wanting peace and wanting to keep the natural flow of life going. Unfortunately, that's not what's happening. And I want to highlight in this video a couple of things that I've been thinking as a researcher, as a psychotherapist, as a social justice mover or worker. I want to mention a couple of things that I've been talking with my colleagues about, talking with my supervisees, and I also want to highlight some things that may shed some light on what's going on. So let's jump in. Thank you so much for coming back to my channel. For all of you who are subscribed and participating, and for those who are new, I encourage you to hit that subscribe button so you can stick around with us. And in case you don't know who I am, let me briefly introduce myself. My name is Tamara, and I'm an internationally and board certified trauma therapist, but I'm also licensed in mental health, and I specialize within my practice in treating children, teens, and families, as well as adults who are dealing with trauma. Let's jump in. So, we've been talking a lot about character pathology. We've also been talking a lot about trauma. And as of last week, I started a new series of videos where we're going to talk about post-traumatic stress disorder. We're going to talk about the psychological and emotional effects of trauma. But in today's video, I want to jump into a couple of theories that has a lot to do with the trauma associated with COVID. I know a lot of you have been struggling with getting back to work. You've had a little bit of a hard time readjusting to scheduling and trying to make it to this deadline and that deadline. I myself have been swamped in my practice. I'm at least just with myself. I have an intern who's seeing clients for me when I cannot, or she's taking on families. But I am seeing at least 129 clients a month. And I'm maxed out at 52 to 56 people a week. So, I'm booked back to back every hour. And it's a situation where you can't just take a break, right? Because once you take a break, the phone is ringing again. Once you take a break, there's a client crisis, or there's a new insurance process, or there's a new something, I've also seen changes in terms of teletherapy, that, there are some insurance companies that are not allowing teletherapy with certain insurance plans. Thankfully, the major ones like Highmark and UPMC and Aetna and Cigna and a couple of other state-based insurances or commercial insurances, they've allowed teletherapy. But there are some smaller insurance companies that are saying, no, we're done with teletherapy. I think it's good to go back into the office, and not covering, insurance claims anymore or sessions. People have also lost their jobs, so they don't have insurance to get help. Their finances are lower than they would like. There's a lot of changes. Let's talk about briefly the kids who are going back to school, right? Kiddos are having a really hard time readjusting to going back into the classroom. A lot of kids have to still wear masks. A lot of kids can't get vaccines right now, and a lot of parents have a lot of concerns about vaccines. So there's a lot going on, and we're all trying to figure out which way do we go after being locked away in our homes and in our lives for a little bit over a year. So it's a lot going on at the professional level, at the personal level, and even at the health level. A lot of people are sick, and, some are still getting COVID, some are dying from vaccination, some are getting sick from vaccines. So there's a lot. Now, if we think about the massacres that we've been going through as of recently, you almost have to question, did COVID have something to do with, pushing these individuals to come out into society and massacre and harm other people? The possibility of that is huge. And there's a couple of theories that I've been kind of tossing around with my clients and with my colleagues. And I want to mention that right now. So let's start with the first theory that I have on my list. And it's something that I've talked about in previous videos. And that's what's known as diffusion of responsibility. Now, diffusion of responsibility is a socio-psychological concept that says, look, if I think that somebody else is going to step in and rescue the day, I'm not going to exercise my free will to step in. There was an experiment done many years ago, and a lot of books on sociology focuses on this particular story. There was a female, she was being assaulted by her lover or by her boyfriend on a sidewalk, and no one stepped in to help. There were people everywhere, and this was in New York City. No one stepped in to help because everyone in that immediate area of where she was being assaulted, they looked at each other and they were looking for each other to step in. I think researchers were stumped at, why won't anybody step in? Like, aren't they, seeing what's going on? Well, yes, but they figured if somebody else steps in, I'm not going to risk my life, my time, my energy, and I'm not going to step out of the normal flow of society to help that one individual if nobody else is going to, or if I see somebody else might do it, I'm not going to do it. Now, how does that relate to post-COVID behavior in society? Well, diffusion of responsibility can basically take the form of, no one's going to step in and be kind. No one is going to be considerate of somebody else's feelings. Nobody is going to be compassionate towards someone who may have lost their job or somebody who may be homeless after COVID. Why won't they step in and be the nice, compassionate, loving people that is needed post-COVID? Why won't they do that? Well, why would I if somebody else is going to do that? There's plenty of charities that can help. Go see a psychotherapist to get that personal care that you need, but I'm not going to go out of my way to support you. And so diffusion of responsibility can definitely occur post-virus or post-pandemic. The next idea is groupthink, and I've talked about this. This is a psychological theory that basically says, I am in a group, and I am in a group where we all agree, even if agreeing means harming somebody else. So I've seen this in my practice, and I've seen this with colleagues, that individuals who have psychotic disorders, or individuals who are sociopaths and psychopaths, or really intense narcissists, right? They do some really risky things. That population of people, they've really kind of retreated during COVID, and they go online, some of them, most of them, and they engage in forums where they talk with other people who are similar to them. They hold conspiracy theories. They hold these really rigid views of society. They are fear mongers. They are gossipers. They get amongst each other and they strengthen each other in their faulty beliefs. And what you have occurring there is group think, group think. Individuals within that group that's, motivated by conspiracy theories, that's motivated by erroneous belief systems or really off the wall religious beliefs. This particular group, they can't have individuals. Everybody has to agree. Everybody has to be cohesive and in harmony in order to function within that group. So these individuals that are within the group, they can't step out of it. So what do? They adopt the mentality of the people in that group. And so, if you're dealing with somebody who has ideas of massacring or ideas of harming society, or they have ideas that says they've been wronged in some way, or they have some kind of religious belief system that they feel is, powerful and needs to be acted out because the group says that's what we're supposed to do, then these particular individuals can come out into society and they can act in very, very strange ways. And it's because of groupthink. They don't have the capacity to think for themselves, to step outside of the group and develop an individualistic mindset so that they can function. They take on the theories of the group, which are typically conspiracy theories. They're unhealthy belief systems and then they act them out when they get out into society. We also can't ignore the role of stress and anxiety post-COVID as well. Let's say this individual is experiencing groupthink and they are really involved in a conspiracy theory about what's going on with COVID and vaccines. And let's say they have high level of stress because they lost their job or they flunked college or something happened, they lost the relationship, or they're highly anxious, whatever the case may be. We can't ignore the role of stress and anxiety in that particular situation. Okay, so massacres can happen because the individual is already frustrated with society, or they have untreated mental illness or mental health concerns, or they have a personality pathology like narcissism or sociopathy. Whatever the case may be, if we add stress and anxiety on top of that, it's going to make things a whole lot worse. There's a concept known as suicide contagion, and I've talked about this a lot in the past, maybe not on the channel, but when I'm invited to podcasts and things like that. And suicide contagion is the idea that if one person within a society commits suicide, or they have acted on a suicidal impulse, then it's going to spread throughout that immediate environment. So let's say, for example, to high school, if an individual within a high school is going to be, depressed and anxious, and then all of a sudden they attempt suicide or they succeed at committing suicide. So they have what's called a successful suicide attempt. It's happened. They're now dead. Individuals within a high school might start to feel suicidal themselves, and they may also pick up on the attention that child's case has gotten, and they may begin to implement some similar behaviors or thought patterns, and they may do the same thing. And so if suicide contagion is a thing, maybe homicide contagion is a thing as well. And so that's something that I think we need to think about as people who have a voice, professionals, mental health professionals, law enforcement, FBI agents, police, things like that. We need to think about that. If there's a suicide contagion theory, and it has been proven in research to be a real thing, then maybe there's a homicide contagion theory as well. A research study I have on my list here, a research study that was done by someone from Harvard Medical School. I'll post this information in the description box for you and some links. He did some research on solitary confinement in jails, and he wanted to know what the effects are if you've been confined in a prison system for some time. And what was noted in his research, or his information seeking on this topic, was that inmates typically experience suicidal thoughts, aggression, irritability, and anger that is internalized. And they also experience post-traumatic stress disorder, anxiety, stress, the list goes on. Some are also sexually molested, and they see violence, or they also see rape. Sometimes prison guards can be really aggressive and really nonchalant about mental illness that person may be experiencing. There's also unresolved mental health issues that have been with the individual before they came to jail. So this particular researcher, information seeker, found out that the effects of solitary confinement in a jail system is huge. And so we have to really look at being confined because of COVID as being similar to solitary confinement in a prison system. We have been locked up. We have not had freedom. And even when we've come out into society, we're still locked up. We're locked up behind our masks, And so there's a lot going on because of that. Psychologically, emotionally, physiologically. Some people have had panic attacks in their homes because they have to get out of the walls. Like, if I were stuck in this office 24/7, and every time I step outside this office, I have to put a mask on, and I have to be afraid because I'm afraid of the virus that we are very uneducated about, I would suffer some consequences: post-traumatic stress, anxiety, depression, anger, aggression, the list goes on. And it would be terrible. So think about that, guys. There are people who are suffering with the fact that they have been locked up for so long, and it's been over a year. Just for the sake of time, guys, I also want to briefly talk about the neurobiological effects of confinement. I'm just going to mention a brief summary of this because I don't want to make this video 20 minutes. It's not worth it. Solitary confinement can also affect the brain neurologically and neurobiologically, okay? And here's why. Our sense of direction is thrown off when we've been confined for so long. we have an automatic system in our body that directs us and it shows us where we are to go. In our ears, right, in our eardrum, we have a pretty sophisticated system that kind of keeps us balanced, right? Our temporal lobes, which are on the side of our temples, it's a part of the brain that keeps us focused. It keeps us kind of grounded in a sense. It helps us with direction. That gets thrown off completely when you are confined for so long. And I'm not going to go into the specifics because I don't want to confuse you guys and I want to keep this video practical. But it can really throw your sense of direction off. Another thing is circadian rhythms. We all have a biological circadian clock, and that's the thing that wakes you up automatically in the morning. And you get up at the same time every day with or without your alarm clock. For some reason, you can just do that, right? That's your circadian rhythm. And that gets thrown off as well when we are confined for long periods of time. The hippocampus is a part of the brain that has a lot to do with memory and learning. That gets thrown off completely as well. The hippocampus is near the hypothalamus and the amygdala and the thalamus. Here's a picture right here so you can see what the hippocampus is. It really is good in helping us with memory and learning processes, and that gets thrown off also with confined, when we're confined, I should say, or solitary confinement is the word that I'm looking for. And last but not least is the amygdala. That's the emotional center of the brain. It's attached to the limbic system. Here's a picture of that as well so you can see what that is. I talked about this in the most recent video I did on PTSD. The amygdala is our emotional part of the brain. It has a lot to do with emotional memories and fear responses and fight or flight, and kind of the body's natural tendency to want to fight something that is threatening us. And so that gets thrown off as well when we are confined for long periods of time. When we're thinking about massacres and we're thinking about the shootings that are happening, some of the other incidents that are going on in society post-COVID, we have to think of these things. I think they're extraordinarily important to keep in mind. Thank you so much for being with me today, guys, in this video. Please give it a thumbs up if it was helpful and share your thoughts in the comment section. Go ahead and hit that subscribe button and the bell button so you'll know when I post new videos. And I will see you in the next video. Thank you so much. See you then.